What we're looking at is a series of photographs that were published in a Nazi scientific journal called Neues Volk. And this was this was a study of children that were the offspring of German women and French colonial troops primarily in the Rhineland. After the First World War, the Allies occupied the Rhineland, and it was demilitarized. And so the French and Belgian army sent in colonial troops. Many within the German population, particularly on the far right, saw this as an insult, as a disgrace. They would often call it the black disgrace or the black shame on the Rhine. And they wrote all kinds of pamphlets, etc., that actually spread to the United States and Great Britain, in which they called attention to this and said, well, these colonial troops are raping German women, they're, carrying out all kinds of violence, and that they are these inferior peoples that are carrying out the racial pollution of the German people, and that they portrayed this as a threat to white people everywhere. And so this was something that, for instance, even in Mein Kampf, Hitler brings this up. But he argues, he says the Jews are responsible for this. This is part of the Jewish plan to destroy the German people by intermixing the German people with inferior races. Now, when the Nazis come to power, of course, now they have authority to do something about it. And there was one particular Austrian Nazi physician and scientist, Wolfgang Abel, who did a study of these so-called Rhineland bastards. Now, what we see in these photographs is the kind of racializing of these children. The efforts, by showing these close-ups of their faces to show that, and then contrasting, you have that photograph of the one girl against a blonde-haired, ethnically, pure German girl, to show the contrast, that they're different, that they're racially different. This emphasis on looking at facial features, creating these racial profiles, let's say, of these children. Now, the use of children in Nazi propaganda was, very conscious, and I think it really shows the kind of extremism of the Nazis, that even these kids can be a threat to the racial purity of that regime. This doctor, Abel, he did some examinations of these children. He says, well, these kids are inferior, they're slow mentally, they have, various, prone to particular diseases, they have bad teeth, blank, 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 a whole slew of things that are, that he said is a result of this kind of mixing. Well, in 1935, you have this push to sterilize these children. Now, it's something that is kind of done behind the scenes. That is, the Nazis already in 1933 have this sterilization law. But the sterilization law doesn't apply to people of mixed race. So this is a program that kind of is done underground. And it's done with the collusion of doctors, lawyers, the Gestapo. They have lists of those children. There are about 385 of these children that they've identified. But we don't know what happened to the vast majority of these children. We don't know what their names were. And they never received any type of compensation from the German government. This has been, some German scholars have been pushing to have recognition of these children, to have some type of compensation for them, to have them recognized as a victim group of Nazi persecution.